Good evening, everybody. We're starting with Parashat Behar. That would be Vayikra 25, verse 1. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihiyeh bidvaro. Okay, let me just make sure my phone's off. I'm going to check. V'yidaber Adonai el Moshe Bahar Sinai Lemor. Hashem spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, saying. So the famous Rashi, as we all know, Ma inyan Shemitah etzel Har Sinai. What is the matter, the subject matter of Shemitah doing next to Mount Sinai? In other words, throughout the whole Torah, many times Moses spoke to the Jewish people, or God spoke to Moses. But here specifically it says Mount Sinai, and we know that most of the Torah is taking place at Mount Sinai. But here, this verse, Hashem spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai. Behar Sinai. In the mount, on the mount, at the mount. So Rashi began to say, what's this subject matter Shemitah doing by Mount Sinai? Meaning, why does the Torah say on Mount Sinai, specifically in the context of the laws of Shemitah, as opposed to any other laws? Hello, kol ha-mitzvahs nemru mi-Sinai? Were not all the mitzvahs spoken at Mount Sinai? Ella, but rather, what is it coming to teach us? Ma Shemitah nemru kloloteha uprateha v'dikuteha mi-Sinai. Just as with Shemitah, concerning Shemitah, all its general rules, its details, and all the fine points were stated at Sinai. Haf b'kulan, so too, the same thing is true by all the other commandments. Ne'emru, klalotehem, v'duktetehem mi-Sinai. Their general rules, their fine points were also stated at Mount Sinai. So, starting with that, Karov Lishma, the Kli Yakar begins by saying, it makes sense to say, Kishiya'ala Moshe El Har Sinai Achar Shiva Shavuot, when Moses ascended to Har Sinai after the 7-week period, right? He ascended on the 50th day, 49 days we count, on the 50th day, after 7 weeks, Shesapru Yisrael Tisha v'Arba'im Yom Min Pesach v'Ad Atzeres, that the Jewish people, they counted 49 days from Passover until Shavuos. Nitkadesh Oz, what happened? The mountain became sanctified. Nitkadesh Oz Otohar, that mountain became sanctified. And what happened as a result? V'ne'asar b'zri'ah v'charisha b'yom chamishim. It became forbidden then, on that 50th day, to plant and to dig ditches, plow. Shebo nitna haTorah, that on it, that day, that 50th day, the Torah was given. V'huzman mashichat hayovel likro dror v'chavshi l'kol Yisrael. That is the time, that moment in time, we're going to call the revelation, right? Not in the other books, revelations, but our true revelation at Har Sinai, where the Jewish people saw God, spoke to Him, heard Him, consummated that special relationship. That was the time that is drawn out, what we're going to call the Jubilee. It sounds like a fantastic moment in time. Draws out from that moment what we call the Jubilee, the Yovel year, Likro Dror B'Chavshi L'Kol Yisrael, where there's a proclamation proclaiming freedom and liberty for all of the Jewish people. This is also written on the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, by the way, this pasuk.
They have a replica in
Liberty Bell Park. Yeah. Makes sense. Cherut al haluchot. Now, interesting. Cherut here means freedom. Charut means engraved. It's a play on the words, as Chazal has explained to us. that yes, it's true that the Ten Commandments, as we call them, the Eser Dibrot, were engraved on these tablets, but it's the moment in time that we call the revelation, that there was a freedom, cherut. Right, there's a political party called cherut, or was anyway, back in the day.
Wasn't it?
Back in the day, but cherut means freedom or liberty. Cherut al haluchot. It's through the tablets, through the law, that we find our freedom. And that's a play on the word of charut is engraved and cherut is freedom. The al yidei kol hashofar shamatin Torah, and through the sound of the great shofar that was blown at the revelation at Mount Sinai, ba'oto zman higid HaKadosh Baruch Hu LaMoshe inyan hashmita v'hayovel. It was at that moment in time that God chose to tell Moses all the laws regarding Shemitah, which is a 7-year cycle, and the Yovel, which is the 50th year. It's the end of the 7th cycle of Shemitot. So you have 7 years, every 7th year is the Shemitah. At the end, that 7th year of the 7th cycle is still a Shemitah year. And the year following it, the 50th year, is Yovel, Jubilee. Saying, what does it all mean to us? That basically, this is like a really trippy kind of concept here. Shiva Mispar Shiva, that the actual number 7, Uba Mispar Tesha V'Arvayim, and then as well as the number 49, I, God, Ani Noten Kedusha Zu L'Kol Eretz Yisrael. I'm placing this holiness on the land of Israel. So it's being drawn out from the Mount Sinai itself, which the revelation took place at the end of the 7 cycles of Shemitot. There's this Kedusha, this holiness, and God places that holiness onto the land of Israel. Sheyesh la dimyon v'yachas im har Sinai, which means that the land of Israel itself has it's compared or very similar to and has a unique relationship with Har Sinai. In other words, in the desert of Sinai there is a mountain. Nobody knows where that mountain is, for good reason, and we're not going to get into that right now, but there was something very unique and special that happened there. That was where the unique relationship with God was consummated and began for the Jewish nation. And that holiness was placed on top of, embedded into the land of Israel. And that's why we have Shemitah and Yovel, and it's holy to Hashem, as we'll see. But he says, Mitzad Hayota Avira D'Machachim. It says in the Gemara Baba Basra that the land of Israel, its very air, the atmosphere, the air you breathe, causes wisdom, causes you to be wise. So the next statement, Ein Torah K'Torah's Eretz Yisrael. There is nothing like the Torah of the land of Israel. You have Torah that was given on Mount Sinai, which is outside the land of Israel, but there was a certain kind of Kedusha, a certain revelation, and the holiness, the sanctification and holiness took place there on the 50th day, the end of 7 times 7, and that was drawn forth. God placed that Kedusha on the land of Israel, the land of Israel then having that same Kedusha as Mount Sinai. When you're walking through the land of Israel, it's like you're hopefully conscious of this idea. We are standing on Har Sinai. Can you imagine? This is the palace. We're in the palace of Hashem. The land of Israel has so much holiness. And not only that, so there's 2 things. Ein Torah K'Torah's Eretz Yisrael, that's in Baba Basra, and he adds Har Sinai, right? So yes, the Gemara, it was the Bereshit Rabbah, the Midrash tells us there's no Torah like the Torah. When you learn Torah here in Israel, it's not the same as if you were learning Torah in Toronto, or in South Africa, or in Georgia, or wherever. So, and Har Sinai also had a certain kind of relationship with the Torah. We always think the Torah and Mount Sinai go together. Well, so does Eretz Yisrael. In fact, I'm not going to go into this right now, but even the Mount Horeb that we call, or Mount Moriah, that would be, I know it sounds strange, Mount Moriah has many names, Mount Horeb has many different names. That's Mount Sinai. It's even called Mount Moriah. That while we were there in the Sinai desert, in the Sinai Peninsula, standing around this mountain, that mountain is also called Mount Moriah. That we were what is it by Star Trek when you're transported? Transported. Okay, that's probably a good word, but I don't know what that means. But either either we as a people, somehow there was an overlap between what we call Har Sinai and Eretz Yisrael. We're talking spooky stuff here, so however you want to understand it, that the holiness is the same, it has the same name, it's as if it was the same place, as if we were transported, not in time, but in place, right? It was at the same moment.
Mount Moriah is also where we now call where the Beit HaMikdash.
That's what I meant. That's exactly what I mean. That you have Mount Moriah here, and that's also called Mount Moriah. How can that be called Mount Moriah when we know for sure this is Mount Moriah? But it could be one and the same in a spiritual sense.
What is it called? Har Sinai, one place and not Horeb in another place. What is it?
Why are there different names?
Yeah.
Any name is a revelation of an attribute.
Mm-hmm.
So we can study the names. Like Moses has several names,
Mm-hmm.
right? Avigdor is a name of Moshe,
Oh.
right? So many, and so we can study that another time. Al Kain, Roy Lite Gam La'aretz, Hahi Kedushas Har Sinai. Therefore, it's fitting to give also the land, that's the land of Israel, that holiness that the Har Sinai had after Achar Mispar Tesha Ba'arvim Shana, after 49 years. In other words, yes, it's true we were in the desert 40 years, we're not looking at that number, we're talking about the 49 days that we were on our way from Egypt until Har Sinai. And then that holiness was placed on the land and was, let's say, drawn out, as we say, drawn out. So every 7 years you have a Shemitah cycle, a Shemitah year, and every 7 Shemitah cycles, at the end you have a Yovel, Jubilee. That was what God did in His wisdom to place the holiness, and He explains why. Either because of this or because of that. Oh, kedei la'asot zikaron l'ma'amad Har Sinai b'kriyas d'ror v'avar shofar. Either it was in order to make a remembrance for the fact that there was this revelation at Har Sinai, where there was this proclamation of freedom, and there was a passing of a shofar, meaning at the original revelation, it was at the end of 49 days, and there was a shofar being blown at the mount. So we're now experiencing in a different sphere, every 49 years, that Jubilee year, it's like a memorial to the original revelation at Har Sinai. That's Mitzaref. Okay, he doesn't give two reasons here, but Mitzaraf l'shar tamim sheyesh l'mitzvazu. The reason he just gave was basically to join in, which would join together with the other reasons for this particular mitzvah of Shemitah and Yovel. Therefore it says, Al Kain Ne'amar Behar Sinai. Now we understand why Shemitah and Yovel, it specifically mentions that this mitzvah was given at Har Sinai, even though we explained in the first Rashi that it wasn't just this mitzvah, it's all the other mitzvahs. But the question we asked, if that's true, that it's what's so special about this mitzvah that it's mentioned. In other words, we got this clear. The first Rashi, what is Har Sinai doing here? To just tell us that all the mitzvahs were given with all their generalities and all their details and specifics. All the mitzvahs were given just like Shemitah was, because here you're going to see all the details. But what's more than that is that what's so special about this? In other words, that's very nice that all the other mitzvahs, that's great, nice to know. But why this mitzvah? So he just gave a very nice explanation in addition to all the other reasons that are given by other commentators. He says this is true and proper, hakarov l'shmoa, and easy to understand. Okay? Now the next verse, v'shav ha'aretz shabas la'Hashem, which means the land shall observe a Shabbos rest for Hashem. V'shav ha'aretz shabas la'Hashem. So the land itself is going to rest for God.
But not every seventh day.
This is going to be every seventh year.
The Shemitah.
Shemitah year. He starts off by saying, B'tam mitzvah zu yesh deos chalukot. The reason for this mitzvah, there are many opinions. There are many differing opinions. Ki Rabbi Momri, many say, Shatamhu, the reason is, Shetishbos haaretz kedei shetosif tet kocha lizorea. That many explain that this resting of the land, allowing the land to lay fallow, is in order to add or give over more strength to the ability to seed and to provide nourishment to the seeds. Uledezu, according to this opinion, in fact, before we go on, you should know that many farmers do something similar. If they break the land into different portions, and every few years they let a portion remain fallow, because they're afraid that if you just keep using the land, it will be drenched or drawn out all its minerals, and it won't give as much produce. And they rotate. This way, they will always have crop to sell at the market. We don't do that, as you know. We don't rotate. The entire year, all the land remains fallow every seventh year. So he will talk about what the world does and what the Jews do, and why it is very unnatural or miraculous. So he says, according to this opinion, Uladei Zu, Nota Rav Hamora, his own Rav opined that was the correct concept. The Rabbim Cholkin Olam, but many disagree with him. The Amru, what did they say? They say, She'im Choshesho HaTorah Lezeh. If the Torah, whenever we say the Torah, we're talking about God. If the Torah was so concerned for this, right? If God had this concern, Shelo Techalash Ha'adama, that the land should not become weakened, Lama Yitchayvu Galut Al Shmitat Haaretz. So why, as a result of not keeping Shemitah, failing to observe Shemitah properly, the obligation, the payment, ends up being exile, right? As a result of not keeping Shemitah, we, the Jewish people, get spit out, kicked out, removed from the land, vomited out. We get removed from the land, called galut, exile, because of not keeping Shemitah. So in other words, why should that be? Let's say like this, everything should be measure for measure, whether it's a reward or a punishment. Why? So that God is trying to inform us, instruct us of how we should either continue or change our behavior. We talked about this in the morning. Measure for measure, midah keneged midah. How else am I supposed to change my ways if I didn't know what I was doing wrong? So God has his ways of letting me know. It's called measure for measure. So he says, Ansham shelo tosif haaretz tet kocha lehem. Shouldn't the punishment be where the land will not add any more power for that? In other words, like this, we're going to be bothered by the fact that if the Jewish people are diminishing the land by not keeping Shemitah, so what you need to do is re-energize the land, especially if there's a galut, there's an exile. What happens is other nations move in and they keep working the land, and they don't have an obligation. So as a result, the land gets even more diminished. So something's not really making sense. Furthermore, She'ein zeh Shabbos LaHashem. We said in the verse that this is a Sabbath to God. So the way we explained it was it's a Sabbath for the land's sake. Ki'im l'tzar ha'aretz. It sounds like the whole reason, according to this opinion, of keeping Shemitah is to replenish the land, to allow it to rest, so that it can continue to work hard for us. It doesn't sound like it's a Shabbos to Hashem at all. It sounds like it's a Shabbos for the sake of the land. Umar Sha'amar, and later on the verse says, Oz tirtze ha'aretz es shabsoseho. This is part of the question. This is in chapter 26:34. 26:34. We don't have the whole verse here. He just says, Oz tirtze ha'aretz es shabsosai. So then, as a result of the exile, then the land will appease the Shemitah years, meaning of its desolation, while you are in the land of your foes, meaning we're now exiled. Then the land will rest, and it will make the Shemitah years appeasing. Well, again, if there are non-Jews living in the land when we're not here, how does the land ever rest? How is that appeasing? He's really focusing, how is that appeasing the land? Ma tarviach b'zeh sheyigalu mimena Yisrael v'yoshva aleh goyim asher leolam bo ya'avodu. What kind of benefit, tarviach, what kind of benefit is there by exiling the Jewish people from the land, and in the meanwhile, Yeshu aleh goyim, while the non-Jews settle the land, and they're going to work it not just 7 days a week, not just all 7 years, but even the Jews, they're going to just constantly work it. They don't have any obligation not to. And he says, "Ve'ech tishbot haaretz b'hashama mehem." How is there a resting of the land by it being quiet from them? Meaning the Jews, the Goyim are still working it, but it's desolate of Jews. And he mentions the Akedah, that's a Sefer, Notun Tamacher, gives an entirely different reason for this. And he's going to end up asking a question on the Akedah. So pay attention. He says, the Akedah says, Shetachlit mitzvah zu, the purpose of this mitzvah, right, the goal, tachlis, this mitzvah, is lezecher chidush olam, to remember that the world was created yesh mi'ayin, something from nothing. There's a creator. To remind ourselves there's a creator. To remember there's a creator. To memorialize, like Shabbat. We keep Shabbat, we remember that this is the seventh day of creation, that there was a creator, and there's a creation. So too, this is how the Akedah brings it down, and he mentions that this whole purpose of the main purpose of this mitzvah is to remember that there was a creator who created the world from nothing. And also to remember that yes, there's going to be the 6,000 year cycle and the 7,000th year of Shabbat, 1,000th year of Shabbat, and then the world will be in a different state. So if that's the whole reason for the Shemitah and the Yovel, and also he says, writes the Abarbanel, but he adds a little bit of a noifech mishalo, a little bit of the opposite. He's bothered by this concept. Why? Why should that bother us? Why does it bother him? Gamze rechok mechilyotai. He says also this is actually very far from my reasoning. It doesn't really make sense. Why? Ki hudaim el Yehuda v'od dikra. Actually, you need no further proof why it's such a silly idea. And what's that proof that he's about to give us? Ki yom ha-Shabbos ha-Tmidi Shabbos comes quite regularly. It's every 7 days. You don't have to wait every 7 years or every 49 or 50th year. But isn't Shabbos to remind us that there's a God, He created the world? So in Shabbos, it comes constantly, Kol Shavua, Bo, Lizecher Chidush Olam. It comes every week to remind us that there's a creator and He created the world from nothing. V'im hu lo yoil, and if that doesn't help, Ma Yoshienu Zehabo Leitim Rechoikim. So what kind of salvation is there going to be for us to remember when this occurrence of every 7 years, every 49, 50 years comes at such a distant time period? It's like, hello, Shabbos is like, every 6 days we're like working toward Shabbos. Like it's in our guts. And if that doesn't help, then certainly that's, the Shemitah and Yom is not going to help. So he doesn't like that reason, right? So he's going to go with the thesis of what the real reason is, according to him, what the most sound reason is. Ukidei liyashev kama ditukim b'lashon haparsha. In order to resolve several very specific ideas within the language of the parsha, Omer ani, I'm going to say, Shatam mitzvah zuhu. The reason for this mitzvah is, drum roll please, the reason for the mitzvah Shemitah and Yovel is, lahashrish es Yisrael b'midat amuna v'hibitachon b'Hashem. In order to embed, like shorish is rooting, to root, to enroot into the Israel, the attributes of what? Faith and trust in God. Shemitah Yovel is about trying to root into us a strong sense of faith, belief, and trust in God. Ki chashash HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What was God concerned with? What bothered Him? What was He worried about? Imagine God having worries. He just loves us. So He was concerned for us. Pen bivoam el haaretz, that maybe, just maybe, right? We would come into the land. Can you imagine this? V'yitasku bi'avodas ha'adama al haminhag ha'tevi'i, that we would become involved in agriculture, in the work of the land, according to the natural order of the world, of how everyone else farms the land. The kasher kabir, and when the people succeeded so greatly, they were strong. Motza yodam, right? They found that through their own strength, they made big tomatoes and big cucumbers and all kinds of beautiful, luscious fruit. Yishchachu Hashem, they would forget God. No, can't imagine this happening. V'yasiru bitchona mimenu, and they would remove their trust in God. What would they say? V'yakshavu, they would think to themselves, Ki chocham v'otzum yodam, also lehem es hachayil hazeh. They would think as if it was their own power and might that created all this success. Right? You can imagine? It's hard to imagine. V'olam kaminhago noheg, and the world just continues to go as it always did. V'yakshavu sha'aretz shalehemi, and they would actually think the land belongs to them. My land. I'm the baal bayit. I own the land. V'heim habalim, that they would be the owners of the ein zulatam, and there is no other. Meaning they really forgot about God, or there's a possibility. It's all about what Hashem was concerned about. So as a upshot to make sure that didn't happen, we'll talk about it in a second. But what would happen if they forgot about God? Al kain hotzi am Hashem min haminhag hatuvi'i legamrei. They removed God from the way that the normal world exists. They just were not thinking about God. And what do farmers do? Ki b'shei shanim, every 6 years, Derech ha'umos la'asos shtei shanim zera v'shana achas bor. They would divide their land, okay, and within 6 years, what the umos ha'olam, what the world would do, what the goyim would do, they would take 2 years they would sow, and 1 year they would leave it empty. So you always want to have something for market. You divide every piece of land into 6 areas, and every year, 2 portions out of the 6 you leave bare, and you keep rotating. Kedei shelo lahachish chela, in order not to weaken its strength. The Kadosh Baruch Hu says, but what does God say? We have it in our verse. It says, this is in, I have to go back to 25. He says in verse 3, 6 years you may sow your field. Sheish shanim tizra sadecha. It's almost like a command. Doesn't sound like a command, but it says 6 years you shall sow your field. Don't do like the goyim, that their land into 6 parts, and they always leave 2 parts bare. No. 6 years, sow your land. Midei shana v'shana, continuously, every year. V'ani mavtichacha, God saying, I am promising you. I swear to you, I am promising you. Lahosif kocha shelo tachish, that I will increase its capacity, its power, and not weaken it. Okay, so that's like one promise, and if that comes true, that's a miracle. V'od nes b'toch nes. He says not only that might have been one miracle if that comes true, but there's another miracle within that miracle. Sha'achar shezrata sheishanim, after you went ahead and sowed for 6 years continuously, in b'shana b'hashishit lo yachish chelo. I'm going to say when, but he says if in that 6th year the land did not decrease its success, its strength, hine l'kol fachos lo yosif la zekoach. Well, at least, right? In other words, if in the 6th year it didn't lose, you could possibly say it didn't gain, but already that first nace was that it didn't lose. Well, guess what? Says Hashem, Adarabah, I'm going to show you the opposite. Shebeshana hashishit yosif la kolkach. I'm actually going to increase in that 6th year so much. It's like you're gonna go crazy. Look at this. Normally, by the 6th year, the power of the ground was diminished. God says, I'm not going to let that happen. Not only that, that's the first nace. I'm going to have such an increase in the 6th year. The 6th year will be increased. What does it say? It says in verse 25-21, you skip over to the 21st pasuk.
While you're looking,
It says right here, yeah.
You said about the word about shorish, embedding. To use the agricultural analogy, you can say to implant within us.
Very good.
For next time, next year.
For this time. Very good. So our verse says, V'tziviti es birchasi, I will command my blessing, b'shana hashishit, in the 6th year. V'os es hatavua l'shalosh shanim. In the 6th year, I'll read it, I will ordain my blessing for you in the 6th year, and it will yield the crop sufficient for the 3 years. So it would say, the 6th year you would think is a very weak year. Not only is it not going to become weak, and maybe it's not become strong, whoa, wait till you hear what God has to say. It's going to become really strong. You're going to have in that year enough crop for 3 years. Why 3 years? Well, the 6th year you need a crop. 7th year you're not planting. And you can't start planting in the 8th year until the 8th year starts. And what are you going to eat? So already you'll have enough in that, in that 8th year left over from the 6th year. Well, guess what? He doesn't like that. That's what it says. That's how we explain it. He's going to explain it a little bit differently, that it's going to be a real miracle. Okay, you think that was a miracle? Watch while he explains it now. Al yidei kol hamofatim halalu asher samti biyodcha teda kli kol haaretz. Let's assume all that's true, and it's through these signs which I place into your hands that you will know that the land belongs to me. Al yidei zeyu einecha nesuas el Hashem. And that through this, your eyes will be uplifted towards Hashem. You'll raise your eyes towards Hashem. Like we find by the man, the bread that we ate in the desert that came out of heaven. Just like then, we raised our eyes to Hashem. In order that they would raise their eyes up towards Hashem constantly. And we would have trust in God continuously. Kach inyan hashmita. So too, that's how Shemitah works. Shalo ya'avdu ha'adama kol shana shvi'it. You would not work the land the entire 7th year. Ein zera ve'ein katzir. You would not sow, and you would not harvest. V'yismachu al hanes shetasa tavua l'shalosh shanim. And you would rely on the miracle that would be created by the grains for 3 years. Hooray, shanei ma'aseh nisi. These would be 2 acts of miracles. There was 2 acts of a miracle. Or the shlishim al kula. But he wants to say there's actually a triple miracle above all of that. Watch what he says now. Hatavua shetase b'shana shishit. That very grain that is created for you, that is yielded for you in that 6th year. Af im lo yebo ki im shi'ur achil l'shana achas. Even if there will not be in that yield, except for the amount for you to eat for 1 year. Not like we just got done saying that there was a 3-year produce in the 6th year. Can you imagine the tircha of having to store all that stuff? First of all, harvesting it, huge effort, triple the effort. Storing it, at least twice the effort, if not 3 times the effort. And it may not last. He says like this: what if it was actually in that 6th year a regular harvest? Mikol Mikol Yishlach Hashem es habracha ba'asam mehem. Nevertheless, Hashem still sent. He would send His bracha in plenty. And how does that work? Sheyachal kima. You would actually just eat a small amount. Umidvarech b'me'at, and there would be a blessing within your stomach. Ad shetaf taspik hatavua l'shalosh shanim, and that would be enough in your stomach to last 3 years. Okay, it's a different take. We talked about the 6th year producing a mighty harvest, and I explained that's a little bit difficult to think that you understand or to see that it ever happened. But perhaps what he's saying now is that as a result of God's blessing, there would be plenty. But how does it work? You get the regular harvest, and you eat a little bit. And as a result of eating a little bit, your stomach would be blessed. There's actually enough tevuah, even in that 1 year, to last the 3 years. Remember, you're not planting during the 7th year. You're not harvesting, and even the beginning of the 8th year, you don't begin, to eat the results of your work. So, but there's enough in the 6th year to carry you over, even if you eat just a little bit, because of the blessing that takes place in your stomach. Ella sharamaz behei hayidiyah. But there is a hint in the fact. I skipped something. First, he says Midika'amar as the proof. There's a proof for this. It says, "Va'asa es tevuah," and it will yield a crop. Okay, if it says it will yield a crop, we're talking about the crop of 3 years. a crop of 3 years. If it says a crop of 3 years, this hey hayediyah, this is like the infinitive hey, the. What it should have said, if it meant, it should have said also tavua lishalosh shanim. It doesn't say, where are we? That was, let me go back to, I think it's in 25:21. 25:21 says, here it is. Es hatavua lishalosh hashanim. Right? And he says, so it says, Vasita et hatavua lishalosh hashanim. But if you wanted to say that the tavua actually itself was 3 years growth in the 6th year, then it should have said, Asita tavua lishalosh shanim. And it will make a crop for 3 years. But it doesn't. El Sharamas Behayadiyah. So what do you get out of this hint of the hay, the infinitive hay? This is the crop. Sha'osa tavua, that crop, shehi regila lasot midei shana b'shana, that you are already accustomed to having every single year. Kaf ta'aseh nes b'shana shishi. That crop will be made into a miracle. I'm sorry, I didn't say nes is gam, I'm sorry. Kain ta'aseh gam b'shana shishi. That same crop will also be what you'll get in the 6th year. Don't expect a larger yield. Expect a miracle from the regular yield. The Yosef Hashem Koach Ba'aretz ad sha'asat sha'ota tavua taspik l'shalosh shanim. That God adds power into the ground, into the earth, until it will yield a tavua that will be enough for you for 3 years. As opposed to a triple crop, it'll be the same crop. That crop will last you 3 years. It won't mold, it won't deteriorate. You only have to eat a little bit and it will be blessed in your stomach. And he says, Zevadai nes nigla gado mikulam. And that, he says, is the biggest miracle of everything. That's how you describe the real miracle that happens on Shemitah. Not, as some explain, a triple crop, as you think you read when you read the verses, but the crop that is just like any other crop, but there's more spiritual energy and real godly energy that will carry you through the blessing in your stomach. V'od tam nachon barur yoter mikol ma shedibru bo hamaporshim. This reason is more correct and clear than all of whatever the other commentators have mentioned. So according to this, dinhu sheyitchayvu galut ba'avona shmita. So according to this, the logic dictates that the result of not keeping Shemitah will be exile for the sin of not keeping Shemitah. Mitzad chesaron ha'amuna shebehem, on account of, from the aspect of the lack of trust and faith and belief in God. Ki lo aminu b'Hashem, since they did not believe in Hashem, they didn't have that faith in God. Lo bitchu b'yeshuato, they didn't trust in His salvation, that God will provide the salvation. Shias lem nes kazeh ba'asiyat hatavua l'shalosh shanim, that He went ahead and made for them the miracle like this in yielding a crop for the 3 years, as we mentioned. Now, in Jeremiah, this verse says, I walk about in the streets of Yerushalayim, shotatu b'chutzot Yerushalayim, and see now and know, ru'u, and seek in its palaces, in its plazas, im yesh ish mevakesh amuna, if you will find a man, if there is one of us who despises, disperses. Let me just look it up real quick. This is in Jeremiah 5:1. Jeremiah 5:1. Here we are. Walk about in the streets of Yerushalayim. See now and know. Shotetu b'chutzas Yerushalayim. And seek in its plazas. If you will find a man, im yesh ish, if there is one who dispenses justice and seeks truth, v'vakesh emunah ve'eslach lo, then I will forgive her. So he says, Gam ha'aretz atzmo. We're talking about the land itself is actually alive. The land itself responds to the emunah and the justice and the faith that the Jewish people have. Gam ha'aretz atzmo tachpid al zeh ma'od. The land itself is very more than concerned. Tachpid is, it's much more than just involved either. Okay, it's concerned about this. Ki rotzono, its will, the will of the land. Shitgalgel skut al zeh yoda. It wants also to be involved. It's involved in the merit, right? Because we talked about the land is going to throw the Jewish people out, or in this, we talked about the land giving the power of the yield. So the land is very much involved, whether the Jews keep Shemitah or not. L'chazek amuna b'Hashem al yadah. That itself has let's say, it wants the Jewish people to keep Shemitah. So itself is going to provide the power for the yield, but also in the other direction too, right? It wants the Jewish people to keep the Shemitah. Then again, Gam ma'aretz atzmo tachpid al zeh ma'od. The land itself is very involved and concerned about this, because its will, ki rotzona, shitgalgel skut, it wants to roll over the merit of keeping Shemitah for the Jewish people, to strengthen the emunah, the belief in God through her, through the keeping a Shemitah or through the land. Furthermore, she'al yedei zeh yaminu kikulam einam rak arisim b'karka, that it's through this they will believe, all of them, all the Jews will believe all that they are plow showers. They're like temporary dwellers. It's not our land. We're lucky that we have an opportunity to work the land. We think we're the owners. It's a big mistake. So the land itself is keeping this belief alive that you are not the owners. You are just the arisei bekarka, arisim bekarka. You're plow showers. You're sharing the land. Sharecropper. Thank you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Baal Hasadeh. It's God who is the real owner of the fields. Ubedavar zeh haaretz chafetza. And it's through this thing that the land actually desires. The land is a living organism, and it has wants. HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'atzmo ba'ala v'adonah. It wants God Himself to be the owner and the master. Ki lo yisbrach haaretz, because the whole world belongs to God. And when we, the Jewish people, negate, forget, are lax in keeping Shemitah, we don't keep Shemitah properly, and we become as if we are the owners of the land, because we're working it, non-stop. So then it's fitting for the land to be very involved and concerned about this. L'chak ne'amar, that's why it says, Oz tirtza ha'aretz shapsoseha. Then the land itself will appease the Shemitahs. The land's involvement, the land itself. Of al ha'umos, but when the non-Jews are living here, lo takpid im yinhagu bo minhag tivi. The land doesn't care if the non-Jews behave and act like the normal way farmers behave. Ki balav hachi kol hanahagatam al pi hateva ve'ein behem emunah. Because even without this, whatever they do, they always believe in, I guess we call Mother Nature. they don't really believe in God. They believe in Mother Nature. They keep the Farmer's Almanac as their Bible. And that's their loss. V'achar hatza'azu, and after this proposal, this is the proposal of the Kli Yakar, Navu lever hapsukim, he's going to now go into details and describe and clarify each of the verses. Ki hema maskimim lekavana zu ha'mitit, because they basically agree with this intent, this true intent that he just described, asher ein safek bo, which there is no doubt about. We'll stop here, and then we'll continue Thursday night in Yitzhak Hashem from verse 3. Have a good Shabbos.